Good evening, everybody. My name is Louise Connolly, and I'm the Events Manager and Teacher Training Manager at Macmillan Education Iberia. I'm delighted you could all join us here this evening for this In Focus event aimed at teachers of primary age pupils. It's wonderful that you could all join us here today and take time out of your very busy schedules. And we really appreciate this. And we hope that today's event will provide you with lots of very useful and practical and relevant ideas and activities that will help you with your classes and help to improve your students or your pupils' language, linguistic, and other abilities. So before I introduce our speakers, I'd like to just explain a couple of things about how the event is going to work this evening. During the talk this evening, you will have an opportunity to interact with the speakers. We will launch a poll, and this poll will appear on your screen. All you have to do is tick the correct answer, and in that way, the percentages will come through and we'll summarize those results. So I would invite you to participate in this poll activity. It will be really nice to hear from you, your opinion. Also, at the end of today's talk, you will have the opportunity to ask questions through the question and answer button, which is visible on your screen. I would advise you that you send in your questions during the talk, because as the talk is developing, you probably have some doubts or questions or comments, so please do use that facility. We'll dedicate a couple of minutes to answering those questions. And then I will invite on my colleague Dave Holmes to talk more about Kids Can. And at the end of the event, we will launch a SurveyMonkey questionnaire. We really want to hear from you, and it's very important that we get your opinion because this will help us to improve future events. So please do complete that SurveyMonkey questionnaire. And after the event, in about 1 week's time, we'll send you an email with the certificate of attendance, the recording of the event, and also handouts for the talk. Okay? So, with no further ado, I'd like to welcome on stage our two speakers, Donna and Mark. Welcome. Thank you for joining us here this evening. How are you? How are you both doing? All well?
Yes, great, thanks.
Good. Yeah, good.
Yeah,
well, actually, I was going to ask you earlier in the week, something occurred to me. I had a conversation recently with Mark, and I'm not sure if I heard correctly. I know that you two have been working together for many years, but I'm not sure. Yeah, but I'm not sure if Mark said to me 13 years or 30 years. Which is true. Because I can't believe it's 30 years. I'm looking at both of you. You're as fresh as daisies. How can it be?
It is indeed 30 years.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
In 1992.
Really?
Yeah,
The
we both
Olympic
arrived
Games in
arrived
Barcelona.
exactly. We both arrived in Spain to teach at the same time.
Okay. So this is a long
Yeah.
working and personal relationship. Wow. So it's wonderful to have you both here this evening, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah. It hasn't been every day for 30 years, Louise.
No, I know, but I know, but as teachers, trainers, and also as quite an intense working experience.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously, it's worked because you're still working together. Great.
We are indeed.
Okay, so listen, I'm going to give over the stage to you guys to talk to us about what makes a good communication task in 2022. I'm going to exit stage. I'll come on later. So we'll see each other in a little while. Over to you.
Okay, thank you, Louise. So in this session, we're going to be reflecting upon and looking at communication activities, how they've changed over the years, and how they are changing at the moment, especially in view of the LOMLOE, which has given more importance to areas of communication such as mediation and plurilingualism. We'll look at how to facilitate the development of mediation and plurilingual skills through communication activities. We'll also be looking at tasks that are not necessarily labelled as communication activities, but which can provide wonderful opportunities for communication. To illustrate the talk, we will be I can't seem to move the slides forward. Thank you. To illustrate the talk, we'll be using examples of material from Kids Can. We'll include dialogues, activities that compare different cultures, and communication games, projects, extra activities for fast finishers, and many other things besides. So I'm going to hand you over to Donna. She's going to begin by talking about how communication tasks have changed over the years. Donna.
Thank you, Mark. Well, what we understand by a good communication task has changed a lot over the years. And this is because what we know about learning languages and what we know about using languages is developing all the time. Now, we can see this if we look at two examples from the past. So let's go back. The first one, the first example is the audio-lingual method. And this became very popular in the 1950s. And this approach was influenced by behaviorism, which believed that learning took place through imitation and habit formation. Now, in this method, a good communication task was very controlled, and it focused on linguistic accuracy. Typical communication tasks included memorized dialogues and question and answer practice. Okay, now the second example is communicative language teaching. And this was an approach that was developed in the 1980s. Now, this approach dominated my initial teacher training. And some of you may remember how it was introduced in Spain with the LOMLOE educational reform in 1990. Now, rather than focusing on linguistic accuracy, communicative language teaching focused on meaning and the ability to communicate appropriately in different social situations. In this approach, a good communication task required the learner to interact and to negotiate meaning, for example, through games, role plays, and information gap activities. Now, these two approaches have very different ideas about what a good communication task is, but both of them continue to have an influence on how we teach, and their communication tasks are an important part of our classroom repertoire. So, what makes a good communication task today? I'm going to hand you back to Mark, and he's going to talk a little bit about that.
Well, the good news is, Donna, that the communication tasks, the games and communication activities that became popular with the communicative approach, the characteristics of those tasks haven't really changed. Those tasks are still valid today. So we still expect communication tasks to provide a reason to speak and a reason to listen, or a reason to write and a reason to read. We still expect communication tasks to be purposeful and, of course, enjoyable, and to have a clear and achievable outcome. So if the basic design of communication tasks hasn't changed. What's new? Well, we now expect a percentage of communication tasks to include opportunities to develop and practice mediation skills and plurilingual skills. This is because we now understand so much more about how we use language to mediate different situations. And also because changes in the world mean that we now live in a much more pluricultural and plurilingual world. As teachers, we expect our communication tasks to reflect the current and trending use of language and to prepare pupils for the world beyond the classroom. So it's logical that today, in 2022, we should want communication tasks that can help the pupils develop mediation and plurilingual skills. Well, before we look at specific activities to develop those skills, we'd like to clarify what we mean by plurilingualism and mediation. Over to you, Donna.
Thank you, Mark. Well, a communication, So what is mediation? Well, basically, it's the process of facilitating communication between people and helping to remove those communication barriers. It's something that we see and we do every day. Now, a communication barrier can exist because people speak different languages. So at school, you may have a pupil whose parents don't speak the local language, and that pupil will have to mediate the information they take home from the school, such as a circular, by translating and explaining it for their parents. Another barrier might exist because the participants are different ages. So a current example might be a child who is worried about events that are happening in the world at the moment and who asks an adult to explain what is happening. Now, the adult will have to carefully mediate the information and give the child an explanation that does make sense, but also reduces their anxiety. And a third barrier to communication could be when the people have different opinions and there's a conflict. For example, when pupils are doing a project. In this case, the mediator will try to resolve the problem by getting the other learners to discuss and to develop their ideas. So in these three examples, we can see that mediators interact with others, and they use both the receptive and the productive skills. First, they're listening or reading information, and then they're communicating it to others, either orally or in writing. Mediators also interpret the information that they read or listen to. And how they do this is influenced by their own knowledge of the subject. After that, mediators then choose which information to communicate. And when they do this, they take into account the needs of others, the listener or the reader, and they adjust the content and the language accordingly. They can also add extra information if they think that this is relevant or useful. Finally, mediators create meaning with others. And this process involves collaboration and sharing ideas and knowledge to create new understandings. So what about mediation in the classroom? Well, we know that teachers are natural mediators. In the English classrooms, we all use multiple strategies to make language and content more accessible for our students. For example, asking questions, simplifying language, or using visuals to support meaning. But what about our pupils? Do they have the opportunity to mediate in the English lesson? What do you think, Mark?
Yes, absolutely. They absolutely do. In fact, I was looking at those sentences before, and I was wondering what would happen if you changed the word mediators for pupils.
What, like this?
Yes, exactly like that. That's exactly what I mean.
So, pupils interact with others.
Well, you're asking me? Yes, they certainly do.
And pupils use receptive and productive skills.
Definitely, not always all 4 skills in one lesson, but yes, they use all the skills in class.
And pupils interpret information. Is that right?
Yeah, a good example is interpreting stories.
Mm-hmm. And they do choose which information to communicate. What about pupils take into account the needs of others?
Yes, it's an area we address in social and emotional learning in Kids Can, because some pupils are better at taking into account the needs of others, but yes, we get them there eventually.
And pupils create meaning with others.
Yes, all the time. Whenever there are spontaneous interactions, they have to create meaning. Yes.
Mm-hmm. So actually, the English class naturally includes opportunities to use and develop mediation skills.
Yes, I would say that's true. Not just in communication tasks, but also in all the interactions that take place between pupils and teachers throughout a lesson.
Okay.
So, and so what about plurilingualism? Shall I move on to plurilingualism?
Okay.
I've taken a definition of plurilingualism from the Macmillan Online English Dictionary. It says plurilingualism is the ability to use skills in a number of different languages for effective communication. The definition is, I think, very clear, and we've already established that people need these skills in the world today. But what are the skills exactly? Let's have a look. People who are plurilingual, or let's call them plurilinguals, they can speak in one language while understanding another. And they can switch from one language to another. Now, there are different competences for this. I am a person who speaks 3 languages, and I can tell you that I am not good at switching from one language to another. It's not a skill that I ever developed. I find it extremely difficult. I have to change chip before I go from Spanish to French, from French to Spanish. So I suppose you could say I'm not actually a plurilingual. Plurilinguals can mediate texts and discourse for people who don't speak a language, just as Donna's been saying, and plurilinguals tend to have better communicative sensitivity and have a greater pluricultural competence. So these are the skills that we are hoping to develop in the pupils so that they can face the world beyond the classroom today and in the future. As teachers, before we try to develop plurilingual skills, we probably need to foster an atmosphere where plurilingualism and pluriculturalism are not just accepted in the classroom, but also celebrated. An atmosphere that recognizes that knowledge of one language can help our pupils learn another, and that knowledge of any language, no matter how small, has the potential to facilitate communication in any given situation. So I'd like to share with you the poster that is on the screen. I think it's a great example of how to set the right tone, the right plurilingual mood with your pupils. The sentence, "Hello, welcome to our English classroom at the centre," is reiterated 7 times in languages that some of the pupils already speak. I think the poster gives importance to the pupils' different cultures, and it invites language comparison, which we will be talking about later. Donna, I'm handing over to you. we're going to be looking at some activities and strategies. What are you going to start with?
Well, I'm going to start with communication, with vocabulary, and I'm going to look at a simple communication strategy that many of you already know and probably use in your classroom. So with this strategy, learners ask another person how to say in English words in their own language. So how do you say pavo real in English? Peacock. Okay, but what's interesting for us is that this same exchange can also help to develop children's plural linguistic skills. So if you have children in your class who have a different home language or who know another foreign language, their classmates can ask them how to say vocabulary items in those languages. So how do you say leopard in Polish? Lempard. Getting children to share their languages provides us with a nice opportunity to make comparisons between different languages. We can write the words on the board and ask the class questions like, are these words similar? How? How are they different? Do the letters in the words look the same? Let's listen. Do the letters sound the same? Another way of developing learners' plurilingual skills is to include code switching tasks in our lessons. And in these communication tasks, learners switch between English and their mother tongue. Now, one of my favorite code switching tasks for younger learners is Build Me. And you can find this in the teacher's book of Kids Can 1. In this activity, the children work in pairs to practice vocabulary for parts of the body. One pupil builds a robot and the other pupil is the robot. So, Mark, I can't see you, but can you be the robot?
I'd love to be the robot.
Okay, great. Let's start. So I'm using my foreign language. You ready?
Uh-huh.
Aquí está la cabeza.
Here is the head.
Aquí están los ojos.
Here are the eyes.
Aquí está la nariz.
Here is the nose.
Aquí está la boca.
Here is the mouth.
Y aquí están las orejas. Son muy, muy grandes.
Here are the ears. They're very, very big.
Okay, so when the activity finishes, the children swap roles and they also swap languages. Now, how did you feel doing this activity, Mark?
Well, first of all, I think the children will love it. I think I would have benefited from doing this activity when I was at school. And if I had done it more, I would have been better at switching from one language to another. As it is, I didn't do it, and I just don't have that ability to do the mental gymnastic. So, hey, I think it's a great activity.
Yeah, I mean, I think I agree. I think the children do love doing this type of activity, and it certainly helps to build their confidence when communicating. It takes some of the pressure off having to speak a foreign language. And something that's very important for me is that everybody is included in the activity, whatever their English language level in the classroom. Okay, so working with new vocabulary also gives us the opportunity to teach strategies to mediate communication when there is a language breakdown. Now, these two activities that you can see on the screen can help children when they don't know how to say a word in English and the other person doesn't speak their language. Now, the first is a defining activity in which pupils learn how to explain an action using the relative pronoun when. For example, I do this action when I watch a film and it's sad. Now, we can see that there is plenty of scaffolding in this activity to support pupils, and this is gradually reduced until by the end of the activity, they are writing complete sentences. Now, once the class are confident with defining actions, we can turn this into a communication activity, a guessing game. So, Mark, I'm going to define an action. Can you guess what it is?
Yeah, I can try. I'll get my revenge later. Go ahead.
Okay, so I do this action when I go to the sports centre.
You have a shower. Oh, God.
Well, I do, but it's not that action.
You play football. You work out.
Do you want a clue, Mark?
I'd like a clue. Thank you.
Okay, so I do this action when I want to relax.
At the sports centre.
At the sports centre.
When you do yoga.
Okay, okay, yes, do yoga. That's the answer.
You don't do yoga.
No, I don't do yoga. No, of course not.
Okay.
No. So moving on into the second activity, we can see that pupils practice using mime and gesture to communicate the meaning of words. Okay, so that's vocabulary. Mark, what are you going to talk about next?
Well, I'm going to talk about using grammar and grammar structures, grammar tables to develop plurilingual skills. So if we can ask the pupils to say new English words in their own language, we can also ask them to think about how they'd say English grammar structures in their own language. And logically, this might happen after a grammar presentation that includes a grammar table like this one, the one you can see on your screen. Of course, all the sentences in a grammar table should already be meaningful. So these sentences have been contextualized, in this case, in a dialogue that the pupils have seen. So the meaning is clear. Now, asking the pupils to think about how they would say these sentences in their own language helps them to notice similarities and differences, helping them to develop their plurilingual awareness. And this is an activity that we often suggest at the bottom of the page in Kids Can. There are many activities at the bottom of the pages in Kids Can. They can be optional activities, extra activities, activities to extend a lesson or to extend an activity or to keep fast finishers occupied. What you can see on the page now, moving on from grammar tables, or from the grammar table, are two children modelling a game. The game is based on the popular classic Who's Who. It requires the pupils to use the target structure from the grammar table. And here is the game. Would you like to play the game with me, Donna?
I'd love to play the game with you, Mark.
Okay, so on the screen you can see 12 children. 6 of them are going to school, and 6 of them can't go to school because they're ill. They're at home in bed. I'd like you to choose one of these children as your friend, and I'm going to guess who your friend is by asking you questions.
Okay. Okay, yep, I've got a friend.
Okay, so is your friend at school today?
No, he isn't.
He. Has he got a cough?
A cough? How do you say cough in Spanish?
Tos.
Ah, okay. No, he hasn't. No, he hasn't got a cough.
Has he got a temperature?
Yes, he has.
Has he got pelo rubio?
Blonde hair?
Has he got blonde hair?
Yes, he has.
And a red face?
A very red face.
Okay, your friend is Tommy.
Yes, it is.
Good communication tasks like this one give controlled, guided, and achievable practice of target language, whilst also leaving the pupils with opportunities to ask for words in Spanish, negotiate meaning, and complete the task in their own individual way. When you've played the game, why not ask the children to invent another game using the same cutout cards? It'll bring out the best in their creativity. Okay, I'm handing you back to Donna. I think she's going to tell us a story.
I certainly am. So this story is about an amazing woman called Brenda Chapman. Now, when she was a teenager, Brenda wanted to be an artist for animated films. So she wrote a letter to the Disney studios to ask for some advice. And they wrote back. They told her she needed to study animation at university. So that's what she did. And after university, Brenda actually started working at Disney Studios. And while she was there, she created drawings for some really famous animated films, like The Lion King and The Little Mermaid. After a few years, another studio asked Brenda to write a story for their new film. And this story was about a princess in Scotland. Brenda didn't want to write about a traditional princess, so she created a princess who was like a real girl. Her princess was called Merida. She was brave and free, and she loved adventure. Now, that story became the film Brave. And since then, millions of people around the world have watched the film and they love Merida. Did you like the story, Mark?
Yeah, I love the story. I love Brenda Chapman. I think she's amazing. And I've seen the film Brave, also amazing.
It is, isn't it? I really like this biography because Brenda created the first modern princess. And the story is inspiring because she was the first woman to receive an Oscar for an animated film. Now, I love telling stories, and I think most people feel the same. It's a meaningful act of communication, and we naturally mediate the story as we do so. And when we mediate a story, we communicate information, selecting the most important and relevant parts of the story to tell the other person. And we usually give a personal response too. For example, saying which bit we like the most or our favourite character. Finally, adults and older children often analyze a story and criticize the story that they've seen or read. Now, an excellent activity, classroom activity, is to ask children to retell a story that they have read. But to do this, they need plenty of support. One way we can provide this support is by getting the class to collaborate in telling the story. So if there are 10 frames in the story, we need to divide the class into 10 groups and give each group a story frame. The groups Then write a sentence or two, yes, about what happens in their frame. And then finally, when the groups are ready, the class work together to retell the story, taking turns to tell their little bit. We can also support children in giving a personal response to the story. Now, in Kids Can 5 and 6, the course characters work with 6 other groups of children around the world to ask and investigate curious questions. And one of the things the course characters do in each investigation is comment on the story that somebody has posted. Now, in this podcast, the course character Alfie, who you can see on the screen, talks about Brenda's biography. And he answers these 4 questions. Do you like the biography? Why? Why not? What's your favourite part of the biography? Why? Do you like watching films with a traditional princess? Why? Why not? And what are your favourite film characters like? So, what does Alfie think about the story? Let's listen.
Her favourite part is when she receives a letter from the film studio. It's incredible! Do I like watching films with a traditional princess? No, I don't. Traditional princesses are boring. They don't do anything. My favourite film characters are funny, and they have lots of adventures.
Okay. Now, so after the children have listened and answered those questions, they have the opportunity to give their own opinions on the story. And Alfie's answers provide a model for them to do this. I really like this communication task because it provides children with an opportunity to think deeper about the story and gives them an opportunity to express their own ideas and opinions.
Yes, and although the activity is initially challenging, I like the fact that the class have the opportunity to repeat the activity with each story in each unit. So they gradually build a repertoire of language for talking about and mediating stories. And moving on from that, just as children mediate stories, they also mediate other types of text, CLIL texts. They extract key information and share it with their friends or their family. A CLIL text like this one, for example. Now, we're not going to read this text, but I can assure you that it is absolutely fascinating. It's all about the human body and how it changes when in space without gravity. And children find some of the content very, very surprising, and naturally, they want to share it. So how can we help the pupils share the key information from a text like this? Well, on the screen, you can now see some strategies appearing. They may be strategies you already use, but they're excellent for getting the children to think about summarizing texts. Get the pupils to decide which are the 10 most important words in the text. If they can choose 10 of the most important words, they're really on the way to being able to summarize the text. Alternatively, they can choose 2 key words per paragraph and then write a sentence including those words, and different paragraphs for different groups of children, and then we can pool our information. Now, all of these activities, I'd like to stress that they should be done in pairs or small groups, because this is creating an opportunity for communication in the classroom. It would be tragic to miss that opportunity for communication by asking them to do it on their own. Another activity is to decide which are the most surprising facts in the texts, and then to have a vote for the most surprising fact. They can do this in pairs or small groups, and then we can take the vote. So Donna, what's the most surprising fact in this text for you?
Oh, that's easy, Mark. Did you know that an astronaut's face is often bigger in space?
An astronaut's face is often bigger in space?
That's right.
That's amazing. And why does that happen?
I'm not going to tell you. You're going to have to investigate. Read the text again.
I bet you're really strict with your pupils. And finally, what about a revision task in the following lesson, or one of the following lessons, in which we ask pupils to remind each other and to remind you of everything they can remember about the text. This becomes a meaningful communication task if they are reporting to children who were absent during the first lesson. And don't forget to provide useful language such as, oh, this is language you use, Donna. Did you know that astronauts' bones are thinner in space? Wow, did you know that is good language? Is that true? Astronauts' bones are thinner in space? So I'm handing the baton back to, oh no, not quite. We can also take advantage of CLIL texts to develop children's plurilingual skills. What you can see on the screen now is a curiosity corner. There are many of them in all levels of Kids Can. It asks, are astronauts taller or shorter in space? Investigate. Now, this investigation, it can happen at home or in school, but it can also happen in the pupil's chosen language, their mother tongue or another language. And when they come back to the classroom, they can report it in English. This is also helping to develop a sense of plurilingual awareness. Now it is over to you, Donna. What are you going to talk about?
Thank you, Mark. I'm going to talk about culture and the pluricultural classroom. Now, as Mark has explained, we live in a pluricultural society. So it's important for children to have the opportunity to learn about and appreciate other cultures. And I think we also need to foster attitudes such as empathy, curiosity, and a willingness and openness to communicate with others. I think getting children to compare their own culture with another culture helps to develop these attitudes. It also encourages children to reflect on their own culture, and of course, it promotes communication. Now, in this example from Kids Can 1, the course characters, Ben and Amy, introduce the learners to birthday parties in the UK. So let's just watch a short clip of the children at a birthday party.
Today's a special day. It's my birthday. I'm 7.
Look, Ben, Jay and Zoe are here.
Happy birthday, Ben. Here's a present for you.
Thank you. And this is for you.
Thank you. I get birthday cards and presents for my birthday. To Ben. Happy birthday from Zoe. Thank you. At my birthday party, we play musical statues. I love musical statues.
Me too. Look at me.
play another game now. We play Pass the Parcel at my party too.
It's great. Everyone gets a present.
Okay, so we can see that this video includes cultural information such as giving birthday cards, which is very, very typical in the UK, and traditional party games like musical statues and pass the parcel. In the rest of the video, pupils are also introduced to party goodie bags, which is the little bag you get to take home with your slice of birthday cake in, and of course the happy birthday song. Now, after watching the video, the children have the opportunity to communicate information about what they do on their birthday. We can see that the options are a mix of the new activities that they have been introduced to in the lesson and through the video, and recycled activities like sing and dance. Now, as children get older, we can trigger their cultural curiosity and increase their intercultural awareness through the use of unusual and exciting cultural content. This task from Kids Can 6 comes after an online exchange about famous buildings around the world. And we can see that pupils are prompted to share information about famous buildings in their country. And afterwards, as we can see, there is another curiosity corner. Now, I'd like to finish this section by talking very briefly about intercultural mediation. And this is the act of facilitating understanding and taking away barriers between cultures. So I live in Mallorca, lucky me, and over the years, lots of friends and family from the UK have come to visit me. And quite often, I've had to explain what a local object, food, or festival is. Now, two of the things I've explained the most are ensaimadas and correfocs. Now, I'm sure you all recognize the ensaimada in the photo. If you haven't tried one, do. They're absolutely delicious. And in the second photo, you can see people running and dancing under quite spectacular fireworks in a correfoc. Now, this festival is dramatic, it's exciting, but to quite a few of my friends, it's just plain terrifying. Now, there are lots of traditional objects, festivals and customs in Britain that are unusual too. So here's a strange object. Do you know what it is, Mark?
Yes, I do, but I'm not going to tell you. Investigate.
Ah, okay. Touché. Okay, I'm going to ask the teacher.
That is a strange object, isn't it?
Ah, sorry, Louise, I can hear you. Okay, so I'll pass this over to you to do the poll.
No, that's fine. So the question, yes, the question is, what is this object? I'm totally intrigued myself. So this is a poll question, everybody. And the poll button is on your screen now, and you need to answer the question, what is this object? Is it an object for holding food? Is it a child's musical instrument? Is it a game that you play with small balls? What could it be? And the answers are coming in. And there seems to be a majority at the, well, no, it's neck and neck actually, between an object for holding food and a game that you play with small balls. However, the game with small balls is going up a little bit. And there's a very small percentage, 6%, that think it's a child's musical instrument. So let's see. I'll give you 2 more seconds and we'll close the vote. Okay, majority, an object for holding food, 53%, followed by 43%, a game that you play with small balls, and only 5% for a child's musical instrument. So put
Okay.
us out of our misery.
Okay. It's a toast rack. Okay. This is an object for holding toast. Now, traditionally, British people prefer to eat their toast cold. So at breakfast time, they put their toast in a rack, just like this, so that the air circulates around it and it cools faster. Have you got one, Mark?
No, no, I haven't. I think there was one in my family when I was a child.
Okay. I've got one, I have to say, but I never use it. Anyway, we can give learners the opportunity to mediate their own cultures by asking them to imagine that they have to explain something typical from their region or their country to a person from another country. And this could be a food, a sport, or even a famous local person. So, Mark, what's next?
Well, it's one of my favorite topics, actually. It's mini dialogues. I love a mini dialogue. Look, there are so many positive reasons for using dialogues in class. They contextualize language, vocabulary and grammar structures, as well as functional language. They provide an opportunity for excellent pronunciation practice. And remember that pronunciation changes in different contexts. So practicing pronunciation in a dialogue is really the best form of pronunciation practice for me. Mini dialogues are like mini theatre plays or mini radio plays. They can be entertaining, they can have narrative, they can be dramatic and informative. And importantly for me, they can build pupils' linguistic confidence, which is so important. It's very gratifying for pupils who sometimes only answer a question or offer a line of English here and a line of English there. It's gratifying to be able to participate in a dialogue of 7 lines or 8 lines. So are mini dialogues good communication tasks? Now, this is a very good question. No, not strictly. They are scripted role plays. They offer us models of communication which are a necessary step on the way to freer communication. And the dialogue on the screen shows that we can contextualize chunks of functional language, like telling the time, making suggestions about what to do. And if you've noticed that there are some words in blue, these are words that the children will be able to substitute, to change and make the dialogue their own, which is like playing with the dialogue, playing with the words. If we move on to a higher level, this is Kids Can 6, you can see that we're introducing chunks of language that will help pupils to invite people to do things, and also to respond to invitations politely. It's a very short dialogue. Why don't we watch it?
I'm going home now.
How about playing some video games later?
I'm sorry, I can't. I'm going to go ice skating with my cousin after school. Maybe next week?
Okay.
Oh, look! Would you like to go to the school concert on Friday? It looks good.
Yes, thanks. That would be great. What time does it start?
Let me see. 7:30.
Perfect.
Great. Have a nice evening and see you tomorrow.
There's some interference there from someone else. Someone else is talking, I think. Anyway, this dialogue, after the dialogue, the children can read it, act it out, and get familiar with the language, practice their pronunciation. And then, if you remember the previous dialogue from level 4, they were able to play with the dialogue, play with the words, and change it, make it funny, make it ridiculous even. In this example, in level 6, the children actually create dialogues of their own using the prompts that you can see underneath. So, Donna, would you like to go to the chess club this evening?
I'm sorry, Mark, I can't. I'm going to the cinema with my sister tomorrow. How about doing some coding tomorrow?
Tomorrow? No, I'm sorry, I can't. I'm washing my hair.
Washing your hair? Really, Mark?
Okay, and moving swiftly on. I'd like to talk just for 1 minute about review lessons. Review lessons typically review language and review content, and they normally come at the end of a unit, and they are common to many course books. Sometimes I find that they look a bit dry, and sometimes they look like tests. But as with the previous levels of Kids Can, Donna and I wanted the review pages of levels 5 and 6 to be dynamic, collaborative, and fun. So what you can see on this review page is a series of small mini puzzles, quizzes, codes, and challenges to review the unit. And importantly, it's something that the pupils can do together, not just sharing their knowledge, sharing the revision process, but also using mediation skills, such as clarifying, explaining, agreeing, and disagreeing, while they negotiate their way through the review. So this is another example of creating an opportunity for natural communication out of an activity that isn't necessarily labeled communication. So I'm going to now hand you over to Donna, who is going to talk about the best thing ever, projects.
Okay, thanks, Mark. Now, it's not an accident that we're ending this webinar with projects. After all, they're often at the end of a unit in course books. But more importantly, what projects also do is to provide an opportunity for learners to pull together and draw on a range of communication and skills and strategies that they've been developing over the weeks and even months of their English course. So let's have a quick look at how different communication tasks have been integrated into a project in Kids Can 6. So in this project, the pupils work in pairs to do a survey, and the project starts with a video showing 2 course characters, Alfie again, and Maya, and they're presenting their completed survey. Now, this video provides an important model of the project outcome, so the learners know what they're working towards. The pupils then work in pairs to choose a topic for their survey and prepare their questions. Now, this requires mediation skills as the children discuss and negotiate the content of the survey. Now, learners will be able to use those chunks of functional language that they have practiced in their role plays, for example, making and responding to suggestions or agreeing and disagreeing. And they may also draw on their other languages to find and use new vocabulary for their topic, their survey topic. Now, in the next stage of the project, the pairs collect the data for the survey by interviewing their classmates or even other children in the school, another class, or in the playground. And in this task, the children will have to take into account different levels of understanding. For example, if they interview children in a younger class or younger children in the playground, they may have to mediate communication by explaining unknown language or concepts to those children. Once the children have collected the information, they prepare a chart showing their results. Now, here the children are introduced to different ways of visually communicating information. For example, by using a bar chart, like this one. Okay, and finally, the pupils watch the video again and focus on specific presentation skills. And this stage is important as it supports children in confidently presenting their results and successfully mediating the visual data in the chart for their listeners. So, Mark, do you enjoy doing projects?
Yeah, I've always loved doing projects. The frustrating thing is that there's often not enough time to do all projects, probably just one a term. But yes, they're very gratifying. And as you say, they pull everything together and lots of opportunity to use mediation skills. So yes, I love doing projects.
Me too.
Well, that brings us to the end of the webinar. We hope that it's given you food for thought, perhaps clarification or reassurance. We hope it's given you some ideas for your classes, some strategies for integrating simple plurilingual and mediation skills into communication tasks. And we hope it's given you some insight into Kids Can. Have you got anything you'd like to say to close, Donna?
Yeah, I mean, it's just a general comment, really. I think we need to move beyond the idea of a single communication task in a lesson. I mean, traditionally, it was always at the end of the lesson. I think we need to think about how we can increase opportunities for interaction in the classroom, because where there's interaction, there's usually going to be communication, and where there's communication, there's lots of potential for developing mediation and plurilingual skills.
Mm-hmm. I agree. I totally agree, and that's exactly why we put all the potential for those moments of interaction and communication into every lesson in Kids Can. So yes, I would love all teachers to take those opportunities to get the kids communicating.
Yeah.
I think we're handing over to you now, Louise.
That was wonderful. Thank you both. Thank you, Donna. Thank you, Mark. Yes, an integrated approach is best, no? And the emphasis on communication and integrating all of these key skills, skills that they could take away with them and apply to all areas of life, no? And go on developing, but start early. That's the key, isn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah. These skills are transferable to be taken out of the classroom, or we can see that from one lesson they can be then used in other lessons in slightly different contexts and become part of their repertoire of language, really.
Exactly. Lovely. Thank you so much for sharing those ideas with us. And as I said at the beginning, we have an opportunity now for people to ask questions. I ask people to put their questions in the question and answer button. And I'm just going to check now and see. I did have a peek earlier and I saw a couple of questions there. And so interestingly enough, and I think this has come up in other webinars and certainly at face-to-face events over the years as well, this question of translation. Some people, yes, some people, you know, it's related to the mediation and plurilingual competences, and, you know, how far should we go with using the mother tongue? Is translation acceptable? Is it not? These questions that always come up, no matter what new ideas come into play. How do you feel about that translation in the classroom?
Mark, or okay. Well, I mean, for me personally, it's a tool. I mean, we don't want to be like with any. We don't want to become over dependent on it, but it can be very effective, and it's a tool the children can use outside of the classroom. And we can't take that away from them. But obviously, children have 3 hours of English a week. If they're lucky, maybe they have more, and we want to maximize their contact with English and the English language. So it's a fine balance. I think every class is different. The teacher's got to make that call on that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a balance, and it's also, it's what I suppose the question is. The important question is why you're doing it. What's the purpose of this?
Yes.
And and if it serves a purpose.
I think we should always remember translation is also a life skill. It's something that you can use outside the classroom, just as this switching from one language to another. You know, I could never be an interpreter, no matter how good my language levels get, because I can't do the switching. So we are, from another point of view, you could say we are helping to develop these life skills that can be used outside the classroom. And but yes, there has been a turnaround in thinking over the years, where we used to have all your teacher talk must be in English, and nowadays it's another way that plurilingualism can come across is the teacher gives the instructions in Spanish and the children carry out the activity in English. And next lesson, the same instructions could be in English.
Yeah. So use it to the benefit of all in the classroom.
Yeah.
With discretion.
So, yes.
Yeah.
With discretion, obviously, yes. And with a clear purpose in mind. Okay, there's also another question, which is related to mediation. It's from Maria del Mar Caston Palacio. And she says, I was very curious about what mediation was. Now, after listening to you, I found it something familiar, and I feel like that using the mother anymore. Am I right? So it's the same.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we're so much more aware now of the role of you know, and also you have to think the mother tongue is the child's identity as well. So by saying no, you can't say that, you can't use your mother tongue, I don't know, I'm a little bit uncomfortable with that. So again, I think you have to be very sensitive in the classroom.
Exactly. Okay. And there's another question as well. How can kids help with multi-ability classes?
Well, there are several suggestions proposed in the books. Obviously, the option to in the review lesson, which we saw a few minutes ago, for example, they can write their answers. They can work in teams so that they can have the support of their colleagues. They can give the answers orally. Vocab lessons, they can mime, they can draw, they can spell, just to practice the vocabulary. There are strategies throughout the book which are are highlighted with a symbol. I can't remember what the symbol is now. But,
yeah, every ability icon. But yeah, I mean, I think this the importance of choice there. So the child can choose how they want to respond to an activity. If they want to give a verbal response, or if they want to give a physical response, for example.
Yes.
So
And
yes,
what
this is
you,
something.
sorry.
No, I was just
No,
reiterating what Mark said. This is something that's been built
yes,
into the material.
yes. And what I was just going to add that what Mark was explaining about the review sections, the fact that there's a variety of activities as well. It's very inclusive, isn't it? And includes different styles, different approaches, different abilities. So that was really nice. You don't often see a review section like that. I went, oh, review. Is that a review? It really kind of piqued my curiosity, as did the text about outer space, and
The
in particular
astronaut.
those, you know that bones are thinner in space and that your face is bigger in space. Well, I'm really curious now. Yeah, my curiosity is really piqued, and so I'm probably going to go away and do a web quest on that, which is something you would be lovely to do with kids. No, certain questions, because the question is the beginning of the journey, isn't it?
Mm.
And then,
yeah.
that encourages investigation, finding out, looking through different sources. I mean, the possibilities there for integrating different skills, not just linguistic, but non-linguistic, um, are tremendous. So that's wonderful. Okay, well, I think that's it in terms of questions. And once again, I really, really want to thank you both for the wonderful, inspiring, very practical, very, very practical. And I want to emphasize that practical, relevant talk with ideas that I think teachers can take away and can apply quite easily to their classrooms. And that's your teaching experience, your training experience, your long collaboration. I won't repeat the number of years
The number of
as
years.
co-authors. Yeah, but actually not just as co-authors, as you said, Mark, also trainers, as teachers. You
Teaching
started working
colleagues.
together 1992. Did I remember correctly? Yep.
Yeah.
1992, September, the beginning of the school year.
Wow.
Yeah.
And where was that, by the way? Where did you start together?
We started in País Vasco, San
Wow.
Sebastian.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we
sure
got off we got off the same train together.
We did.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Okay. Well, thank you very much. Please do stay around. I don't mean on
Okay.
screen as such. Yeah. We'll all come back together at the end. I'm going to introduce my colleague, Dave Holmes, now. Dave, good evening. How are things with you?
Hi there, Louise. Yeah, great. I feel I've learnt even more things about Kids Can.
Really? More than you already knew? That's amazing.
Exactly.
Well,
There's
I mean,
nothing like listening to teachers and listening to authors to find out things. You're always learning something new.
exactly, exactly. But I'm sure you have a few new things to share with us. So I'm going to give you the stage, as it were. I will exit stage once again, and I'll see you later. Okay?
Okay, thanks, Louise. Hi, everyone. And well, thanks to that great presentation by Mark and Donna. I think we've had a real insight into Kids Can and its methodology. So what else can we say about Kids Can? Let's see. Well, Kids Can sparks learners' curiosity, recognizing that children are curious by nature. They're curious about the world around them, and they're curious about what they see in their books. we believe that promoting curiosity in the classroom has a positive impact on learners. It helps to make the learning process more enjoyable and rewarding. It improves learning outcomes, and it provides intrinsic motivation for lifelong autonomous learning. Kids Can invites learners to ask questions. In fact, each unit begins with a thought-provoking question to engage them and to encourage them to share ideas. As we've seen in the presentation, learners develop an awareness of how language works through plurilingual strategies, which encourage them to make connections between English and their native language. Cross-curricular lessons also help learners embrace curiosity and discovery. Kids Can invites learners to explore cross-curricular topics across the entire curriculum. These contain surprising facts to fill them with wonder and inspire them to find out more about the world. Kids Can also encourages learners to develop a responsible attitude towards sustainability. These topics engage children's natural curiosity and inspire a passion for learning. Kids Can inspires learners' creativity. Creative expression plays a key role in children's emotional development. In Kids Can, the creativity corners and projects provide children with opportunities to share their own imagination and ideas. The phonics element in first cycle allows children to be creative with their bodies. There's plenty of scope for creative crafts, and of course there's the extra fun component. This component gives learners the chance to have fun developing their creative thinking and problem-solving skills with a wide variety of task types, puzzles and challenges. Teachers also have the option of integrating a learning situation as defined by the LOMLOE into every unit of each level of Kids Can. This is explained step by step in the teacher's books with suggestions for how to build the various elements of the unit into your learning situation. Kids Can, as we've seen in Mark and Donna's presentation, develops real communicative competence. Real-world content, videos with real children, and authentic communication situations ignite learners' natural curiosity to discover more about the world around them. Here's an example, complete with subtitles to help learners decode what they're learning. Can we see the video?
This is where I leave food for the hedgehog in winter. What does he eat? We give him special biscuits. He also eats insects and snails, and we give him water to drink. Hedgehogs eat at night and sleep in the day.
Do you feed other animals?
Yes. This is where I feed the birds. I've got some seed for them.
Isn't that lovely? Well, what else? Well, Kids Can gives learners a purpose to communicate and, as we've seen, to develop linguistic mediation skills at all levels of the course. These facilitate mutual understanding in everyday situations and help children become confident speakers. Kids Can fosters collaboration. When children work together, they produce more language and they're more likely to embrace creative and logical thinking. The end of unit project offers them The opportunity to create a collective piece of work which is linked to the unit topic and language. The project creates a sense of achievement and it's inclusive, giving each child the opportunity to participate in their own way. And in second cycle, collaboration skills are an essential element of the end of year quiz, where learners are encouraged to share their learning working in teams. Cooperative learning builds social and emotional skills. In Kids Can, social and emotional learning and values are contextualized in stories, and they build cultural awareness to help learners grow up to be inquisitive, kind, and responsible global citizens. The cultural lessons, focusing on British and other English-speaking culture, promote curiosity about the wider world and our learners' place in it. Culture and interculturality are woven into all levels of Kids Can through the stories, through the curiosity corners, the culture sections with their compare culture tasks, and the premise in third cycle of the contents of the unit being presented by different teams from around the world. Kids Can supports and celebrates inclusion. We can find characters from different ethnic backgrounds and different family situations. For example, in first cycle, Amy's mother is a single parent, and we can also find children with disabilities and children with glasses, without glasses. Basically, for children to engage with any book, they need to feel included, and that's what we try to do with Kids Can. Also, talking about inclusion in the context of multi-levels, the Kids Can approach takes into account that primary classrooms are made up of learners who have different learning needs. With this in mind, we have ensured that teachers have the support they need to help every child thrive. In Kids Can, the activities have been carefully designed so that all children are actively engaged in their learning. What do we mean by that? Well, for example, there are activities which offer learners a choice, presenting them with the possibility of responding in different ways. Scaffolding is provided in the form of differentiated instruction, depending on whether your learners' needs require you to support, consolidate, or reach higher. Tasks can therefore be fulfilled according to learners' individual capabilities. The teacher's book offers expert tips on how to acknowledge each learner's individuality. Kids Can also addresses differentiated learning through the Something for Everyone graded worksheets, which provide support and extra language practice at 3 levels of challenge. And of course, as always, we offer 2 versions of the activity book, the standard version and the essential version. Let's have a quick look at the components included in the Kids Can package. Firstly, for pupils, the printed and digital pupils books, activity books, and essential activity books. There's the Extra Fun magazine, the Pupils app on Navio. Navio's our learning through gaming platform, and the Pupils Resource Centre, where your learners and their parents can access all the course audios and videos. Going back to Navio, well, maybe you've heard of Navio, but it was actually a finalist at the prestigious Elton Awards and provides an engaging learning environment for learners to use both at home and at school. The built-in progress tracker and reward system are also highly motivating features for learners. For you, the teachers, we've got the Teacher's Resource Box, a treasure trove of resources, including the Something for Everyone pack, which comes complete with its own pedagogical guide, worksheets at 3 levels, the class puppet for first cycle, who magically turns into a mini rucksack, plus flashcards, word cards, and in first cycle, story cards. And of course, we've covered all your digital needs with the Teachers app, accessible through the Macmillan Education Everywhere platform, as always. It includes the Classroom Presentation Kit, Teachers Resource Centre, test generator, and, for your younger learners, a magic phonics component. And as always, as users, you'll have access to our exclusive resources and training opportunities through Macmillan Advantage. And finally, due to popular demand, we are adding 2 new components. To help smooth the transition between pre-primary and primary, you'll have an adaptation pack to help your young children get to know their new course, their new puppet and friend, Sam Squirrel, and revise the key language they've learnt in preschool after a long summer away from English. For autonomous communities where children are used to reading capital letters in primary, we have capitals editions of the Pupils book, Activity book and Extra Activity book. So, thanks very much for coming and for your attention, and enjoy using Kids Can.
Well, as you can see, Dave, I'm shaking with the Monster Rock.
You're doing the Monster Rock?
It.
That's good.
I'm doing the Monster Rock.
I want to be a
monster.
Thank you
very
now.
much. Thank you very much for that lovely presentation. It was really complete, very clear. And I did learn a couple of things with your presentation as well. In particular, I didn't know about the magazine. That looks very interesting. I'll have a look at that. And also the last about the adaptation pack as well, and the capital section. That's interesting. That will be very interesting for teachers now, receiving children into first cycle. Absolutely. Okay.
Exactly, and it's something that we've that basically these come from requests from teachers, and this is information that that we've received from teachers, and we've tried to respond to. So as I say, by popular demand, and I hope teachers like them.
Fantastic. That's great. Thank you. Okay, I wonder if Donna and Mark are with us still. Yes, good. You're back. Thank you. You're looking good, not too tired. You did a lovely job, by the way. It was a great, really lovely talk, lovely ideas. And I love the way you work together. I mean, it's a wonderful working relationship. So, which way? So well done to you both, and well done to Dave. Thank you so much for sharing all of that. And I just want to also, obviously, it's really important to thank all the people who've been with us for the last hour and a half and have taken time, at the end, exactly. Let's give them an applause at the end of a long working day, lots of classes. You've stayed with us. It's now 7:30. We won't keep you very much longer, but thank you so much for being here. And we really do hope that these ideas and that this course will help you to bring your students, your pupils to the next level, really help develop their skills, linguistic and non-linguistic. And I would like to invite you again, please, to complete the SurveyMonkey questionnaire that now will appear on your screen. There is a question, there are a couple of questions in there about future training. That's really important to us. We do want to get it right. We you know, as Dave said, we consult with you. You know, we do research with you, and so we make changes. We create new materials. We respond to your needs. And this survey is also a way for us to respond to your needs, and it will, I'm sure, inform future teacher training events, programs, and plans. So please do complete the questionnaire. There's also a question in there about whether you would like to find out more about the Kids Can course. Please do complete that question. And if you would like to collaborate with Macmillan Education, either by responding to emails, receiving authors in your classes, or editors, or responding to questions, don't worry. Or also, for example, taking part in focus groups, because those focus groups are really important. That's where we get key information, and that helps to inform our decisions about what we produce, what material we create. We want to create material that will really help you with your real life classroom situation. Okay, so that's it. Thank you. Thank you once again, Donna. Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Dave. Thank you, everybody out there. And I wish you all the very, very best for the rest of this school year. And hope to see you soon. Bye.